All right, let's get right into it. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're mapping out this incredibly intense, almost reality-bending planetary shift that we are all experiencing right now. We've synthesized insights from 10 very diverse sources for this. We're talking everything from ancient metaphysics to quantum physics, right through to modern societal trends. The goal here is to help you understand what's actually happening beneath the surface, and more importantly, where we're heading. It's a lot of ground to cover, so let's just dive in.
So first off, have you noticed that the pace of literally everything feels like it's quietly speeding up? If you've been feeling this weird shared sense of burnout or just this underlying intensity to your daily life, the sources we reviewed suggest you are definitely not alone. And no, it's not just in your head or some collective mood swing. According to the material, what you're feeling is actually a symptom of a massive cosmic transition that humanity is living through right at this very moment.
Which brings us to Section 1, the Age of Acceleration. We're entering what's known as the live fire period. Okay, let's look at this through the lens of Chinese metaphysical tradition. The framework shows that humanity recently exited something called Period 8. This was an Earth element era that ran from roughly 2004 to 2023. Think about that time. It really rewarded grounded stability, gathering material assets, and trusting institutional authority. But as of 2024, the sources suggest we've officially crossed into Period 9, which is governed by Star 9 or Lee fire. And here's the kicker. Unlike Earth, fire doesn't hold things down. It illuminates. It accelerates everything. This new period essentially demands absolute emotional truth. That means any gap between your authentic self and the mask you present to the world, that's going to become nearly impossible to maintain. But wait, the texts argue this acceleration isn't just a metaphysical concept. They point to something called the Grand Galactic Convergence. This is the theory that Earth is physically moving through a highly energized segment of our galaxy right now. So as our planet's magnetic shields naturally lower, our toroidal speed, which is basically the rotational energy field around the Earth, is actually accelerating. The sources describe this as entering a banana zone. It's this exponential upward curve of physical and energetic change that is quite literally shaking up the planet. So let's move to Section 2, the illusion of choice, and take a look at the dying paradigm. As we barrel into this new fire period, our sources highlight that there is some serious friction with the old established systems. They point specifically to behavioural influence groups. Think of the UK's Behavioural Insights team, often called the Nudge Unit. The authors here argue that these institutions use covert psychological techniques to engineer public compliance. They cite examples like framing vaccine hesitancy as just pure irrationality, or pushing for digital IDs to limit non-mainstream media, and even manufacturing consents for green initiatives like heat pumps using public funds. The core perspective across these texts is that old paradigm systems are relying heavily on invisible social pressure to completely bypass your independent human reasoning. And we see this exact same theme of top-down control explored in our food systems, too. The sources draw a really sharp contrast between natural biology and industrial alternatives. Take something we all love, real, living, fermented cacao. It's a plant with thousands of years of history and incredibly complex health benefits. Well, the texts argue that corporations are quietly trying to engineer that biological complexity right out of existence. How? By culturing cocoa butter from a single cell in a bioreactor. The big concern raised here is that we are trading nature's living, complex biology for patented, highly controllable industrial products. I absolutely love this thought from the material. Faced with all these invisible psychological and biological nudges, the authors propose that your most powerful response is simply conscious awareness. Makes sense, right? When a system is literally designed to bypass your rational brain, your absolute sharpest tool is to deliberately reclaim your discernment. By just paying attention to the emotional texture of the information you're fed, you can basically take back the steering wheel. All right, Section 3, the holographic reality. Let's dive into the science of the unseen. To really grasp the scope of this shift, the texts dive into some totally mind-bending quantum physics. Check out this thought experiment. What happens when physicists try to cut a single photon in half with an ultra-fast shutter? You'd probably expect a pretty simple result, right? Maybe just slicing the light wave down the middle? But no. Instead, the mathematics produced an infinite superposition of photons, all appearing to just emerge from what we used to think was totally empty space. What this experiment perfectly illustrates is that empty space isn't empty at all. It's a seething, dynamic field of pure potential. The sources connect this to physicist David Bohm's brilliant concept of the implicate order. Imagine this hidden, underlying architecture of reality, where every single point contains the information of the entire universe, literally exactly like a hologram. In this model, the physical, tangible world that you and I navigate every single day, that's just the surface projection. That's what Bohm called the explicate order. Now, apply that holographic view to space exploration. The sources bring up 3I/Atlas, which was an interstellar object that recently passed silently through our solar system. Astronomers scanned it for hours using radio telescopes and heard absolutely nothing. But the authors ask a super fascinating question. Why on earth would a civilization that's millions of years ahead of us be using mid-20th century radio technology? If the universe really operates as this conscious, interconnected hologram, we might be completely deaf to their messages just because we're using dinosaur tools to listen. So, the huge takeaway from these scientific models is that reality at its most fundamental level does not reduce neatly down into little separate blocks. It multiplies. Whether we're looking at a sliced-up photon or scanning the vast cosmos, the source material argues that the universe is infinitely more complex, dynamic, and frankly conscious than traditional material science ever assumed. Which takes us to Section 4, Finding Inner Architecture. This is all about adaptation. So how do you actually adapt to this holographic, lightning-fast reality? The text contrasts two states of being. First is the unanchored self. In an era of infinite potential, it's super tempting to just want total, boundless freedom. But the sources suggest that highly capable people actually stall out in this state because having infinite choice is incredibly cognitively exhausting. The solution they propose is chosen constraints. It's the idea that by deliberately choosing your structure and your boundaries, you're acting like a river giving itself banks. You're taking all that spreading energy and focusing its power in one deliberate direction. To find that structure, the sources explore systems like Shui, which is this ancient numerical logic. And the authors are quick to clarify. These systems aren't magic crystal balls. They aren't going to predict your destiny. Instead, they act as mirrors. They are designed to help you find coherence by validating the natural patterns and constraints that your life has already been teaching you. The whole goal is to stop forcing external outcomes and start aligning with your own authentic internal blueprint.
Finally, Section 5, the planetary evolution. Let's look at the destination.
If we are adapting as individuals, where is humanity actually headed collectively? The sources point to an amazing evolutionary timeline outlined by Dr. Stephen Greer. Right now, we are sitting at level 0. We're on the precipice. We have all this high technology but lack the spiritual wisdom to manage it safely. But the trajectory from here goes up. The map envisions us moving to level 1, a peaceful global civilization over the next century. Fast forward 1,000 years and we hit level 3, an integrated interstellar society. Eventually, generations down the line, we reach level 5, planetary enlightenment. And eons from now, we hit level 10, an era where every being fully embodies universal consciousness. Now here's what's really wild about this slide. The driving force behind this staggering evolution isn't actually technology at all. It's something the texts call primal thought. This is defined as the very first emanation from an unbounded field of pure awareness, which then differentiates out into all of creation. Because we're all born from that original impulse, the theory states that every single point in space, including you, inherently contains the consciousness of the entire universe, meaning the map to interstellar evolution actually begins inside your own human consciousness. So, to help us get to that destination, the texts outline a framework for becoming a planetary shift facilitator. Essentially, how to be a rock in the storm for others. It breaks down into 3 steps. Step 1, making a deep commitment to clearing your own energy field and resolving your inner conflicts. Step 2, building unshakable self-belief and resourcefulness. And step 3, stepping up into courageous self-expression. The authors argue that by embodying just these 3 traits, you can genuinely help anchor the collective as we go through this intense planetary shift. So, pulling it all together from these sources, we are the universe expressing itself as individuals. The old controlling material paradigm is fading out, the pace of everything is accelerating, and the ultimate destination is literally universal consciousness. As we all navigate this rapidly shifting hologram together, the one provocative question these texts leave us to ponder is this: what level of awareness are you choosing to bring to the world today?
You've been listening to the Weaving the LightNet TLDR. To explore more about any of these topics, visit lightnet.co.uk or listen to the full deep dive podcast episode linked below. Give the video a like, share this episode with others who would appreciate it, and subscribe to join us next week as we continue weaving the web of planetary consciousness together. Stay sovereign.